You imagine the thing in The Exorcist where the head goes round and you know it's a sort of camera trick. This is for real. He really does, and I'll show it for you in a minute. He really does twist his head, whole body in the opposite direction. Well, the Circus of Horror is an alternative rock and roll circus. Big affinity to Brighton, of course, so we always love coming here. Lots and lots of stories about us visiting Brighton over the years. It's the first commercial place that we ever performed in over 22 years ago. We did the Glastonbury Festival, and we wanted to try and do it where someone had to pay for tickets to get into a show, and we thought the best place to try it out in was Brighton, and so that was the very first place we went. So what we tried to do, though, is every year is the show tries to evolve, and we bring new artists in and new shocks and surprises right across the board. And this year's show is called Voodoo, and it features all sorts of bizarre and unusual things. And of course, it's the year of the woman. We mustn't forget that, the suffragettes, etc. So we empower a lot of women in our show, where, for example, knife throwers, where you normally get a guy throwing knives around a girl, we have a girl throwing knives around the guy, and then we have a girl firing a crossbow and a longbow around the guy. So it's completely twisting things on its head. So the girl's very much the star of the shows. And as I say, it's all based around this voodoo character who's basically been awoken from the dead by a Ouija board. I don't want to give too much of the story away. And then he comes out and he does these amazing contortion act where he's twisting his whole body in completely the opposite direction. You imagine the thing in The Exorcist where the head goes round and you know it's a sort of camera trick. This is for real. He really does, and I'll show it for you in a minute. He really does twist his head, whole body in the opposite direction. So that is just one of the many amazing things that you see in the Circus of Horrors. Around this time, 22 years ago, I suppose, I met a guy called Jerry Cottle, a circus entrepreneur, and a godson of mine had died in an accident in a circus ring in Blackpool. He was only 21. He fell from this very inappropriately named thing called the Wheel of Death, fell to his death, sadly. I went to console the family the next day, met Jerry, and it was one of those things, what you do and all that sort of stuff. And between us, I told him I was doing the Circus of Horrors, but I wanted to make it bigger. There'd been a show called Our Chaos, which come to Brighton very regularly, but they sort of came and went, really. They were massively successful, but not very good business people, and kept going bankrupt until there was no Our Chaos anymore. So I just felt there was a big gap in the market for an alternative rock and roll circus, and I thought this was the opportunity. There was nothing like it. You know, you had Cirque du Soleil, but that was very much for the prawn, you know, the prawn sandwich brigade. There was nothing for normal people or abnormal people or alternative people, and we felt the Circus of Horrors could fill that gap, and has to do so for the last 22 years. It's always great. I mean, as you know, I stood as a parliamentary candidate back in the election in June, which was great fun. At the time, we were performing on Preston Park, so we were in a big top. This year, we're back in the theatre role, but we're also in Creepy Crawley tomorrow, the opening of our tour, and then in Eastbourne, down the road that way, a couple of weeks later. So always love coming to this part of the world. I mean, look at me. I've walked through the streets of Brighton today, and nobody bats an eyelid. This is normal for Brighton, so it's my sort of place. If I wasn't living in London, I think this is where I'd settle down.